בחייה בציון ומספד בירושלים.
Here we are, in the place of the most catastrophic and horrific pogrom in modern Jewish history. As we all know, the place that more people were killed anywhere in the world since the Shoah. And this is the epicenter of that place. Here we are in the forest of Re'im Be'eri, between Be'eri in the north and Re'im just behind us, in this place where 3,500 people came to the Nova Festival, and 10% were killed, so many more maimed and wounded, and over 44 taken hostage. Over 400 people in this festival, at this place, were either killed or taken hostage. That's 1/3 of all of the 1,200 who were affected in this day. So here we are, not only in Otef Aza, in the Gaza envelope, now called Minhelet Tkuma, but here we are in this killing field, the epicenter of all of the killing, maiming and murdering and torture that took place. Chanyon Re'im, the festival of Re'im, the site of the greatest Jewish pogrom in the modern era. And I want to reflect on what happened here in the exact way that Yirmiyahu the prophet reflected, with one word, to explain this word, the most important word of the day of Tisha B'Av, the day which is colored by this word. It's the theme of the book of Eicha Lamentations, and it's the word which defines many of the kinot that we say on this day. And that word is Eicha itself. 3 of the 5 chapters start, Eicha, how could this happen? Hashem, how could this happen? And not only that, I noticed this year that 5 of the kinot, mainly the ones that we say in the morning, in the beginning of the morning kinot, starting from the second one, 5 of them begin with the word Eicha, perhaps reflecting the 5 chapters of Eicha. And what does the word Eicha mean? We all know that the word how is actually Eich in Hebrew. So why Eicha? What is the difference between Eich and Eicha? And I believe the difference is this. Eich is a question which demands an intellectual answer. How could something like this happen? What is the reason? What is the answer? Eicha is more poetic. It comes more from the soul and the heart than from the mind. It is a question, a rhetorical question. It's the question of a grieving heart, of a paining heart, a heart of Jeremiah, which saw Yirmiyahu such pain and destruction. He said, Ribono shel Olam, Eicha, how could this happen? Now we know that we don't question God's divine ways, and we know that Hashem is just, and we know that Hashem wants what is good for us, and there is absolute justice in the world. But that doesn't mean we always understand it. It doesn't always mean that what we experience in our lives reflects that. We know it to be true intellectually, but viscerally, emotionally, it doesn't always add up for us. Our human experience often does not correlate with what we know to be intellectually true. And when that happens, the human heart says, Eicha, God, how could it be? How could it be? We're not looking for an answer because we know that we're not going to understand everything. We know that you are beyond our understanding. But that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean we aren't grieving. It doesn't mean it's so painful. And even though Yirmiyahu was the one who prophesied about the destruction of the temple, he is the same one when it happened, says, Ribono shel Olam, Eicha, how could it be? How can it be that Yerushalayim, Yashva Badad, Ha'ir Rabati Am, the city that was so full and the hustle and bustle of Jewish life, the epicenter of Jewish life, became the epicenter of Jewish destruction? How can it be the place where so many people gathered around is now Eicha Yashva Badad? You're now on your own, isolated, grieving, mourning. How can it be? How can it be, Ribono shel Olam? Not necessarily demanding an answer, not even necessarily requesting an answer, because we know it's beyond us, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt so deeply. Ribono shel Olam, Eicha, how can it be that your temple was destroyed, that so many people were destroyed and killed in the way that they were, both the first temple and the second temple. And here we are in the rebuilt state of Israel, with so much ability to defend ourselves and so much dignity for the Jewish people. Yet here, as we all know in Simchat Torah, this became a killing field, one of torture, one of the most horrific things that we can't even say, barbarism that we didn't even believe could happen today. Ribono shel olam. Eicha, Eicha, how can it happen? And I want to read the first of the kinot of Eicha, because this is the only one of the kinot of Eicha, the actual kinot starting with the word Eicha, that every single stanza begins with the word Eicha. The others start with Eicha, and then they're either alphabetical or in different formats. This one, every single stanza begins with Eicha. This is also written by the famous Elazar Kalir, the famous Paitan. And he says, I just want to read the first line. He says, because it starts all the Eicha series of this particular kinat. It's the second one that we say on the day, Kinana Zayin, the seventh after the first 5 at night, and the second of the day, and it ushers in another 4, series of 5 thereafter in the first 10 or 15, which begin Eicha. And I'm just going to read the first line. Eicha atzta be'apecha. God, how is it? Atzta, that you so quickly, you hastened be'apecha, in your anger, la'abeid biyad adomim emunecha, that you destroyed, lashmid la'abeid, the word la'abeid, at the hand of the Edomites, which the Amalekites come from, of course, as well. Emunecha, those who believe in you. How were your faithful ones slaughtered? And seemingly it happened so quickly. How did you hasten it, God? Velo zacharta brit bein abtarim, and you didn't remember your own promise of the brit bein abtarim. Asher berata livchunecha, that you promised and you clarified for those who are so tested. How can that be? And this is the theme. God, how can it be? Juxtaposing that which we know to intellectually be true, that you've made promises to us, that we are your people, that we are so dedicated and loyal to you, yet we have suffered perhaps more than anyone else. And this is the question of Eicha, and this is the theme of the day. We sit mourning, crying, grieving in this particular year more than any other, certainly in my lifetime that I can remember, not only on a personal level with the loss of our son, but on a national level, the national level of over 1,500 as the recording of this, soldiers and citizens and civilians who have lost family members. And here we are at the epicenter of it. And Ribono Shel Olam, from here, on Tisha B'Av, we cry out to you, Eicha, Eicha, how could such a thing happen? How could such a thing happen? Alalali, alalalanu, with such pain from the depths of the heart. How could such a thing be? One of the harrowing realities of the suffering within suffering that I noticed actually before the horrific events of October 7th, Simchat Torah, was how many siblings, brothers and sisters had been murdered in terror attacks in recent times, and indeed on October 7th, on Simchat Torah. We remember only last Pesach before the horrific events of the D family, Maya and Rina, 2 sisters with their mother, killed so horrifically. Then we had Hallel v'Yagel Yaniv, the 2 brothers killed in Chawara. Then there's 2 young innocent children, Asher v'Yaakov, Pele, young children, all of these innocent brothers and sisters, 2 young siblings, older brothers, older sisters, within a couple of months, these horrific piguim terror attacks. And here we are, the place of the Nova Festival, in the Be'eri Re'im forest, and here we are next to 2 brothers from Jerusalem, from Yerushalayim, the Vaknin brothers, Michael and Oshri, 2 brothers who were killed and murdered here in this very place. 2 brothers who were amongst the organizers of this very festival, fun-loving, life-loving, people who were, their friends say, beloved to everybody, who believed in love, who believed in life, and were amongst the organizers of this festival. And here, these 2 brothers, ne'ehavim v'ne'imim b'chayehem, beloved and together in their death. I just noticed what's written behind is it says by one of the brothers, we ride together, and at the back of the other brother it says, we die together. Brothers who should have been living together, riding together, going through the journey of life together, was cut short in this horrific place, who died together, Michael and Oshri Vaknin. But the truth is, so many brothers and sisters taken hostage have died together. We're going to share shortly the story of Noam and Yishai Slotki, killed not far from here. A remarkable story of heroism and brotherly love. Kfir and Ariel Bibas, we know the siblings, as of the recording of this, still in Gaza, we hope and pray, are alive. Gali and Ziv Berman, twins from Kfar Aza. By the way, Michael and Oshri are twins, and so too the Berman twins, Gali and Ziv from Kfar Aza. And also from Nir Oz, like the Bibas twins, Eitan and Yair Horn from Nir Oz. And also two brothers, Yossi and Eli Sharabi. Yossi, who was declared dead, his body still in Gaza, and Eli Sharabi, still in Gaza, a Chatuf, hopefully alive, as the recording of this. And therefore, not only has this affected all of us as a people, affected so many families, but also siblings, the sign of what we call brotherly love and sisterly love, people who love each other more than anything, who have their lives together. And yet, even that, brothers together and sisters together, were killed, tortured, maimed, murdered, taken hostage in such horrific ways. And here, by the twins from Yerushalayim who were killed in this place, Michael and Oshri, we tell the story of some of the brothers, some of the sisters, some of the siblings who unfortunately lost their lives this horrific time. And from here, we'll move on to places where brothers courageously stood together and fell together on this horrific yet heroic day. I want to share the story of two brothers, because the truth is that brotherly love and Rahman al-Islan, brotherly hate and discord, is actually what caused the initial exile down to Egypt. In fact, what's known as Galut Rishonah, our initial exile down to Egypt, as we all know, was because of the hatred, the discord, the discontent between Yosef and his brothers towards Yosef, the horrific act of Mechirat Yosef. So much so that we know that it was that act of brothers getting up on each other which actually caused the destruction of the temple itself. We also know from famous sources that the source of the destruction of the second temple, according to our sages, is sinat chinam, causeless, baseless hatred. And therefore, the discord between us as brothers and sisters of the same people, between brothers and sisters of the same family, brothers of Mechirat Yosef, is what got us into exile in the first place. And I believe that so many brothers and sisters falling together, perhaps in this there is a sign of how important it is for brotherly love, for brothers and sisters of the same people and of the same nation and of the same families, to feel that brotherly love and sisterly love of absolute responsibility for each other, the arvut haradit, the solidarity of those bonds, of familial bonds that have to be at the core of our national identity. And here, in this very place, the harrowing, heartbreaking, yet heroic story of Yishai and Noam Slotki. Their father, Rabbi Shmuel Slotki, is a friend, a rabbinic colleague. His wife, Rabbanit Tali Slotki, a wonderful father and mother, wonderful family, who lost on this day their two heroic sons, Noam and Yishai. And it's a story of brotherly love. Two brothers living next door each other in Beersheba. The older brother Noam with his wife and the younger brother Yishai, next door neighbors in Beersheba. As the parents say, one religious, one less religious, not religious. And the two of them together were so close, brothers, literally brothers, which just wanted to be next door each other and live with their families, both married next door each other. And on that day, when people from Sderot came, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, they started hearing what was going on in the south. Immediately, one of the brothers got into his car, left his wife and child with the sister-in-law, and off he went. The other brother came home and said, "What's going on?" He heard about it, phoned his brother. He said, "What's going on?" He told him. And the two of them met up outside Beersheba and came together, trying to listen to the news and think, where are they needed? And the two of them arrived early in the morning, not far from here, just on the main road where they began to fight, two of them alone with handguns, neither of them in the army. They were both Golani soldiers in the army, but they're now in Miluim and therefore reserves. So they were just regular civilians at the time. They put on their uniform. They came here as brothers, Noam and Yishai together, started fighting just outside Alumim, where they noticed lots of terrorists with RPGs, and they fought for 45 minutes. We know from the signal on their phones, for 45 minutes, doing everything that they could to stop the terrorists getting into Alumim and committing a horrific massacre. And the two of them fell not far from here, at the entrance to Alumim, the two bodies together, found with many terrorists around them, unfortunately burnt. And these two bodies, a symbol of incredible brotherly love, of heroism, of everything that is good about the Jewish people. And indeed, unfortunately, they fell al Kiddush Hashem, but saved many. We know that the Kibbutz of Alumim behind us, just a few kilometers away from Be'eri, just a little further down south, we know almost 100 people, 98 died from Be'eri. Such horrific destruction in Be'eri. Perhaps part of the reason that so few, relatively so few, there were 16 from Alumim, which is every soul and every person is in Olam Law in the entire world, but relatively few compared to some of the other kibbutzim in the area. Perhaps it was that spirit of heroism, that brotherly love of these two brothers with fire in their eyes, standing together, fighting together, living together, and unfortunately passing away together, knowing that it's their brotherly love which is the root of the responsibility for the love between all of us as the Jewish people. And that love and connection, which is what brought them to here to defend their own people. And Bezrat Hashem, in the zchut of such incredible self-sacrifice, heroism and brotherly love, that their falling, as their parents continue to say, will contribute, we hope and pray, the horrific and terrible falling to the brotherly love within our people, which is so absolutely necessary, that if it is through sinat chinam and brotherly hatred that the temple initially was destroyed and galut ensued, that it's through this tikkun of the incredible brotherly love displayed in this place and in other places on this day, which ultimately will be part of the nechama and part of the binyan for Klal Yisrael. There is always hope in the pain. No matter how deep the tragedy, no matter how painful and sorrowful life is, there is always hope. And even in the depths of the kinot, where we pour our hearts out to Hashem, and we say these lamentations, crying about the tragedy which is so difficult to bear, the final one of the kinot, famously with its beautiful, haunting melody, Eli Tzion ve'areha, is a symbol of the fact that despite the pain and sorrow, there is hope. And famously, the metaphor which forms the basis of this entire kinah is the one of childbirth. Eli Tzion ve'areha kamo isha b'tzireha. Yes, perhaps the most painful physical experience is childbirth. Rents the body asunder, such a difficult, painful process, hours of pain. Yet somehow this is able to bear, because we know that within the pain, within the challenge, within the depths of the pain, there is hope, there is life. A new dawn begins as a result of the pain. And therefore this metaphor of what our sages have called Eit tzara Yaakov, it says in the Nevi'im, it's a time of challenge for Yaakov, umimeno yivashah, and from it there will be salvation. And our sages famously say, Rabbi Kook, Rav Tzvi Kook often used to say, umimena, a mem mitoch, even though there's such Eit tzara Yaakov, umimena yivashah, and from within it, from within the pain, from within the difficulty, yivashah, there will be salvation. Here, at this place, Nachal Oz base, here we are at a place of so much pain, so much difficulty, a place where more soldiers fell on the 7th of October, Simchat Torah, than any other place in Otef Aza. 54 of the 300 soldiers who fell in and around the small base known as Nachal Oz. Unfortunately, one of those was our son, Daniel Hashem Yikom Damo, who fell after 2.25 hours of defending the base on the Israel side towards Gaza, where he fell along with Eicha and Tomer Leibovitz, and Itai and Daniel. As this recording, their bodies are still held in Gaza. But 54 soldiers fell here. Not only that, it was here that the operation room was burnt. It was here that so many people were burnt alive and lost their lives. It was here in the air raid shelter that the 7 tatzpitaniot, we saw the videos of some of them being taken captive. Many of their friends were killed in the migunit, in the air raid shelter here, not far from here in Nachal Oz. And it's from here that they were taken. And therefore a place of such pain, but also a place of hope. It was here that Israeli soldiers streamed in from all around Israel. And one of those, the story of brothers that we've spoken about, one of those was our son Yonatan. As Hashgacha, Providence would have it, our son Yonatan, after fighting in many different places, was the one who led the forces of the paratroopers into this base, saving many of the women and fighting for hours in this base along with his commander and other officers. Indeed, also officers of the Yamam, where the commander Arnon Zmora of the recent Mivtza Arnon, which saved the 4 hostages, he also fought at a similar time with the Koch of the Yamam, the special forces in this base, to save and to defend. And this brotherly love of a brother for a brother, our son Yonatan, fighting as Providence would have it in the same place that his brother unfortunately earlier had fallen, and people from all around Israel fighting for their brethren, fighting to save people that they didn't know, men and women of Nachal Oz, the kibbutz nearby, and of course the Mutzav, is that sign of brotherly love, that sign of hope, that sign of the gvura, of the heroism at the heart of what happened in that day. So many of the systems failed, but what did not fail in that day with the sense of allegiance, the sense of all for one and one for all, the fact that we are all brothers and sisters no matter what. We were blessed, unfortunately, in this place of difficulty where our son Daniel fell, and we're still, please God, waiting for the return of his halal for burial in Israel. His brother survived, his brothers and many others survived, saved 22 soldiers, 20 female soldiers and 2 male soldiers, the last survivors of this Mutzav, of this base. And also the soldiers who fought here from the time of our son Daniel and thereafter, saved Kibbutz Nachal Oz just in front of me. Kibbutz Nachal Oz, relatively few people were taken captive, even though it's so close to the border, and relatively few were killed compared to kibbutzim in the area. And because of the heroic actions of our sons, brothers, and so many other Israeli soldiers and civilians, so much good and so much amazing things happened despite the challenge. And therefore, it is so appropriate that we end with Al Elitzion ve'areha, that despite the pain, there is so much hope. Tragedy is never forever. We had the schut of not only Yonatan surviving, but getting married 10 days later, despite the fact that at that time we didn't know Daniel was missing. And so many other weddings have happened. In fact, as I'm recording this, we just recorded the story of Yishai and Noam Slotki, and I told his father that I was busy recording, and he just told me now that Yishai's brother Yonatan is getting married tonight. Tonight, as we're recording, I didn't know that Yishai's brother Yonatan is getting married tonight. And despite the pain, Elitzion ve'areha, despite the pain of Zion, which is weeping and crying, and all of us crying for Yerushalayim, crying for Israel, crying for so much of the difficulty that has happened, K'moi Shabbat Sirah, we understand that it's not forever, and out of this will come a new dawn, a new day. And the Slotki family, their son Yonatan getting married, and our son Yonatan getting married 10 days later. And that is the story of the Jewish people. It's a story why we don't say Tachnun also on Tisha B'Av, that even within the pain, it's somehow still some type of moed. Good will come from it. Mashiach will be born in this day according to our sages. And therefore, despite the pain, despite the suffering, despite the Eicha that we don't have answers, despite the fact that so many brothers and sisters and families fell in these places, at the same time, we have seen who we are as a people, the love for each other, and please God, the ahavat chinam that we have seen on this day going forward will be the tikkun of brothers who are there for each other, tikkun of Mechirat Yosef, the brothers and sisters who are there for each other at this difficult time, Bezrat Hashem. This will ultimately be the great Bsorah news and tidings for the Jewish people, to bring back all of our hostages, for the defense of all of our soldiers, to vanquish our enemies, to return all of those who aren't in their homes in the south and the north. And Bezrat Hashem, Elitzion ve'areha, K'moi Shabbat Sirah, out of this will come growth, beauty, healing, comfort, and strength for the Jewish people going forward.
Adono b'chiyo b'tzion u'mispeh